What's going on, YouTube? On my channel and on all my platforms, I've done a lot of no evidence gameplay, and I've shown kind of my process into that, but I kind of want to take a step back and do an introduction guide to no evidence gameplay and the multiplier I use. We're going to go over what no evidence actually means, all the ghost abilities at a very high level, just to kind of show you how to go ahead and determine those ghosts with no evidence. We're going to do an actual no evidence gameplay so you can see it all and apply it, and we're also going to go really talk about what grace period is, and what does it mean to not have any hiding spots? So we're going to go into all that stuff, and we're going to go ahead and dive into it all, so that way you can understand whether you're a new player or you're a player that's been playing a long time and you just haven't tackled no evidence gameplay before. So without any further ado, let's get into it. So first things first, we're going to go into our custom here. So our custom is a 10.62 times multiplier. This is a very popular custom. A lot of people use different variations of it, but this is the one that I prefer. So the starting sanity is 0. Sanity is the threshold to when the ghost can hunt you. Most ghosts will hunt you at 50% sanity. Some cannot hunt you until less, shade. Some can hunt you when you have more sanity, like a demon or early hunter. And there's a lot of ghosts that have little nuances to when they can hunt you. But if you have 0 sanity, there is nothing stopping those ghosts from being able to hunt you. The only thing really would be is if some ghosts are scared of certain things, like an Onryo is scared of flame and you have a flame in the room. Or if the shade is in the room with you and it doesn't want you to be in the room when it starts to hunt. Things like that. You would have to be able to look at those little intricacies and say, you know what? It's not hunting because of this reason. So if you have 0 sanity, there's no reason the ghost should not be able to hunt you. Next up, a very common question I get is, what is grace period? Grace period is that time between when the hunt begins, meaning the front door slams and it's locked shut and you can't get in or out, and the ghost actually spawns. You'll kind of notice sometimes when the hunt starts, you can hear the ghost making sounds, but it's not actually appearing and moving yet. So that would be called grace period. If there's 0 grace period, there's no time for you to react. So if the ghost spawns on top of you, you're more than likely going to die immediately. But if the ghost has a 3-second grace period, for example, it's going to give you 3 seconds to hear the ghost making sounds, knowing directionally where it's going to come from, and give you 3 seconds to try to get out of that area before it starts hunting. So it's very useful to have a little bit of grace period. If you have none, you get a much bigger multiplier, but it's more dangerous. Next, let's talk about what the 0 evidence actually means, because I've noticed a lot of people are very confused on this. No evidence means that if you use any equipment that gives you the opportunity to get EMF 5, UV, ghost writing, freezing temps, dots, ghost orbs, or spirit box, it's not going to give you that piece of evidence. You can still use the thermometer. It'll tell you where it's cold, but it'll never tell you where it's freezing because freezing temps are not possible. You could use an EMF reader to tell you where an interaction occurred, but it's never going to give you EMF 5 because you don't have the ability in the settings to get EMF 5. But the only way that you would ever get evidence on a no evidence run would be ghost orbs from a mimic, because the mimic ghost orbs are part of the ghost's ability. It is not evidence. It's fake orbs. Next up, let's talk about what it means to have no hiding spots. And I think the best way to actually show this is to show you in gameplay. So if you played Phasmophobia before, you know that some of your most popular hiding space inside of farmhouses or different houses in general are going to be lockers and closets. But sometimes when you open them up, there is not a hiding space available there for you. That is because the difficulty you're on is actually preventing you from hiding in that location. So right here we have a locker and it's blocked off. So when you have no hiding spots, it means that all of the essential hiding spots that the game gives you are not available and are blocked off. So this one over here is available. So if you're doing no hiding places, this would not be available as well. Let's go check this locker over here, this closet. This is also blocked off. That would be happening in a no evidence run. Another potential hiding spot that would definitely not be there is sometimes you'll notice there's a piece of plywood here allowing you to kind of hide behind this shelf. That would not be there either. So some hiding places that could be available to you, none of them will be possible, but there still is available for you to go ahead and make hiding spots out of things that aren't necessarily real hiding spots. I'm going to give you an example. Going ahead and turning off your electronics and crouching below the countertop. That is essentially hiding from the ghost. They can't really see you back here unless it sees you go back there, or you stand up, or you have electronics on, or you're talking. It's not really going to know you're back here. So this is still essentially a hiding spot, but it's not an official hiding spot. So this would be available to you, but all the official spots would not be. Now that we've explored all of our custom settings and what it all actually means in gameplay, let's go ahead and start talking about some of the ghost types and how to identify them, all of their abilities. Now, I kind of want to do this in a way that's very methodical, right? Because if you're doing a no evidence game, the first hunt that you have, you're going to ask yourself, is the ghost fast or slow? So we're going to go over all the ghosts that are fast. But I'm going to go ahead and eliminate every ghost that isn't fast for this situation. Spirit, Poltergeist, Mare, Demon, Yokai, Myling, Obake, Onryo, Yurei, Banshee, Wraith, Phantom, Shade, Oni, Goryo, and that's about it. All the other ghosts that you see that are not crossed off in this moment, they are all considered to be fast under some circumstance. The great thing is that every single ghost has a different situation and a different catalyst that makes it a fast ghost. Let's go over every single one of them. The Jinn. The Jinn gains its power from having the electric on, meaning the breaker has to be on. When the breaker is on, the Jinn has the ability to do a Jinn speed boost. The Jinn speed boost occurs when the Jinn sees you from 3 meters or more away during a hunt. When it gets that line of sight from 3 or more meters away, it'll speed up very quickly in an instant. It'll be normal speed up until that point. So if you notice that the ghost's normal speed sees you from 3 meters away with the power on, and then it speeds up very quickly, that more than likely is a Jinn. So if the power is off, the breaker is off, the Jinn is powerless and it will not be able to do that. So that is the Jinn, and that's how it becomes fast. The next ghost we're going to go over is the Revenant. The Revenant is a ghost that is very, very slow and it doesn't know where any players are. It'll basically be taking 1 footstep every second almost. When it actually is able to sense a player through electronics, through their voice, or it's able to see them, it's going to speed up to 3 meters a second and go directly to the player's location that it heard it or saw them. Then if it's not able to find them, it's going to go ahead and slow down again to the very slow speed. So the Revenant is only fast when it's aware of where you are, and it's very slow when you're not. So if you have a repel, the best thing to do, repel the ghost and try to break line of sight or get into a hiding spot. That way it's not able to find you again. It'll return back to a slow speed. Next up, we have the Hantu. The Hantu is a ghost that is very, very fast when it's in cold temperature rooms, aka the ghost room. Or if you don't have the breaker on, any of the rooms can be a little bit colder, especially if it's snowing outside. The snow actually makes rooms inside of the location colder. So make sure you turn on that breaker to try to go ahead and make sure all the rooms outside of the ghost room are going to be warmer. When the Hantu is in a warm room, it'll be very slow. In a cold room, it'll be very fast. The Hantu is unable to get line of sight speed, meaning it's not able to progressively get faster the longer it sees a player. It's not based on line of sight speed. Its temperature is the sole reason that's either fast or slow. Also, if you're looking to try to test out the Hantu, turn off the breaker, make it a little bit colder in the location, and it's the only ghost in the game that'll be showing you breath coming out of its mouth during the hunt, meaning that you'll see breath coming out of the ghost's mouth, not the player's mouth. So keep that in mind. It's not coming out of your mouth, it's coming out of the ghost's mouth. Next up, we're going to go to Twins. Now, Twins has the opportunity to be slightly faster or slightly slower. Now, it's not going to be very fast or very slow. It's going to be a very slight difference from normal speed. This can be very difficult to try to pinpoint if you're new to the game, to understand what that speed sounds like. And to make matters even worse, the Twin is not, like, it doesn't go 1-to-1. So it's not fast, then slow, then fast, then slow. Each and every hunt, it's random. It's going to be totally random whether you're going to get the fast Twin or the slow Twin. One of the biggest ways to determine you have a Twin is to notice if you see it spawning in a lot of different areas once after another. So like if it's always spawning in a different location of the house, could be Twins. Or if you notice that it's throwing something in one location of the house and then the next second it throws something in a totally different room, that is called twin interactions. Different interactions in totally different areas of the location, one after another. That would be twin interaction. Next, we're going to go up to Thaye. The Thaye is a ghost that's actually able to age the longer you're inside the ghost's location. That means that the longer you're there, the slower the ghost is going to get. When the round begins, the Thaye is very fast, it's very active, and it has a lot of activity. The more you age the Thaye, the more the activity decreases, the slower the ghost gets when it's hunting. And the Thaye also has no line of sight speed. So whatever the age of the Thaye is, that is going to be the speed of the ghost. It'll never speed up more than that. The no line of sight speed really is the key indicator to the Thaye. Also, if you try to age it, you can see if it actually becomes slower periodically the longer you're in the round. That could also indicate that you have a Thaye. We're going to move on over to Deogen. The Deogen is a ghost that always knows where players are no matter what. It's able to speed over to their location, and when it finds them, it's going to go ahead and start slowing down to 0.4 meters per second at a very slow speed. There's a reason that players in Phasmophobia like to say that you can walk your Deo. It's because if you keep moving around, the Deogen will follow that player around and essentially never catch them unless they go ahead and reach a dead end, or they were hiding and they didn't realize it was a Deo and they get backed into a corner. Then you will inevitably die to the Deogen unless you have a repel. But the Deogen's a very, very interesting case because its blinking patterns are also very visible. It shares that with the Oni. It's very easy to see, but it's not what it's famous for. It's famous for that very fast speed going directly to a player and slowing down when it gets there. The Moroi is a ghost that actually likes to curse people that hear it on Parabolic or Spirit Box. You're not going to get Spirit Box because you're not going to go ahead and have the ability to get Spirit Box on no evidence runs, nor are you really going to matter if you're cursed or not because you're already going to have 0 sanity probably, unless you're doing a sanity round. The key thing about Moroi here is that the lower your sanity is, the faster the Moroi is. If you're able to go ahead and pop a sanity pill mid-hunt, you're going to notice that the Moroi is going to actually slow down in speed mid-hunt. The Moroi also does have line of sight speed. So contrary to the Thaye and the Hantu, the Moroi will progressively get faster the longer it sees a character, which gives it the opportunity, if you have 0 sanity, to make it the fastest ghost in the game. Very terrifying indeed. Another thing to note about the Moroi is that if you repel the ghost, it's going to impact the ghost for 7.5 seconds compared to 5 seconds for every other ghost in the game. Now, what does that exactly mean? If you're using a tier 2 or a tier 3 smudge, you're going to notice that that ghost is going to be slowed down or stop moving for 7.5 seconds compared to 5 seconds for every other ghost. So the repel actually impacts it for a longer period of time. So if you repel a ghost and you start counting, you can actually determine if it's a Moroi just from the repel alone. Last but not least for the fast ghost here, we have the Raiju. The Raiju siphons electronic equipment and actually speeds itself up as a result. To kind of show how this would work, let's go ahead and take our EMF reader here, for example. You can see right here, right now, the EMF reader is on because it has the red lights on it. I'll even put my flashlight here too. If the Raiju is theoretically supposed to be coming from the kitchen and I was hiding somewhere over here, when it got into the range of the electronic equipment, it would siphon that power, give it electronic disturbance, and speed up in that area. When it got out of the area of electronic disturbance, it would go back to a semi-normal speed. So the Raiju is only fast if you give it electronic energy. Now, the energy that comes from the ceiling fan here, it would not count. It's only the electronic energy from our equipment as players. So the biggest thing here is if you think you have a Raiju, make sure you turn off your electronic equipment or it's going to speed up faster than you're able to possibly get away. The only other ghost we have here for potential fast ghosts would be the Mimic. And if the Mimic can mimic any one of the ghosts I just went over, then you have that capability. The thing about the Mimic is it changes ghost types every 30 seconds to 2 minutes. So if you notice that you have differentiating abilities, meaning that, let's say, for example, you have a Revenant, then in 30 seconds to 2 minutes, you don't see the Revenant ability anymore, you have a Mimic. Also, you can look for ghost orbs for Mimic, even in a no evidence run. Go ahead and pull out your video camera and see if you can see them in the ghost room. Now that we've gone over all the fast ghosts and the Mimic, we're going to start talking about all the other ghosts. And I think the first ones I want to go over is the Spirit and the Demon. The Spirit and the Demon can be determined by repel timers. That means that you go ahead and use the repel stick here during the hunt and start a timer immediately after. That timer can be done with whatever you want it to be. It can be done on your clock phone app. It can be done with Windows timers. It can be done with some other application that is best for you. But it has to be done the moment you repel the ghost during the hunt. And I'm going to show you exactly what that looks like. The ghost is hunting. I'm going to tell it to come on over to me. And you're going to start the timer right now. The moment that it turns away from you and you see that smoke go off and it impact the ghost, that's when you start your timer. Do not wait for the hunt to end to start your timer. It will be an incorrect time. The Spirit will not be able to hunt for 3 full minutes after you do that. The Demon can hunt in 60 seconds. Or what I like to go ahead and do is wait to see if it hunts in less than 1 minute and 30. Because every other normal ghost in the game won't be able to hunt for 1 minute and 30 seconds. The Spirit and the Demon are the underliers. So this Demon will be less than 1 minute and 30. The Spirit would be over 3 minutes. Just a quick call out as well. In this round, I only had 2 lights on and the breaker still got turned off. I know for certain I didn't have too many lights on to accidentally trip the breaker. So the ghost must have done it on their own. And that would also mean that you don't have a Jinn. The next ghost we're going to go over is the Wraith. The Wraith, what I love to do is I like to go ahead and make the ghost come towards me during a hunt. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to line the doorway with a little bit of salt here. And what that's going to do is, let's say the ghost comes from that direction. I'm going to have the ghost look at me, come through this door, and during the hunt, it'll have to walk over this salt. If it does not disturb the salt, meaning it has a footprint in the middle of the salt pile, then I know for sure that it is not a Wraith. So if it's no disturbed salt, it is a Wraith. Every other ghost would have to walk in salt. That is the easiest way to test for Wraith. The Wraith also does have a teleportation ability. and that could be very dangerous. So if you're doing 0 grace period runs, please make sure that you're standing on top of a crucifix. That way it doesn't spawn on top of you and unalive you with 0 grace period. When the teleportation from the Wraith does occur, it'll leave behind an EMF2 signature. So if you have an EMF reading around you and you notice it hasn't thrown anything in your location, you may be dealing with a Wraith ability if it goes off. Next ghost we're going to go over is the Poltergeist. The Poltergeist is a ghost that has to throw something every half a second during a hunt in order to be the Poltergeist. Every other ghost can throw a certain amount of objects, but none of them will throw something every half a second. That's 2 objects every second. If there's nothing for the Poltergeist to throw, it is essentially a powerless ghost. Also, the Poltergeist is the only ghost in the game that can throw objects while it's lit in the room. So if it's not hunting and the lights are on in the room and you see things getting thrown, you probably have a Poltergeist. Obviously, there's a lot of discrepancy on room boundaries. If the ghost is actually outside the room and is throwing stuff inside of your lit room, that would give you a false positive on Polter, but it's something worth noting. What I like to do to go ahead and test for Polter is I like to take a nice little loopable spot and fill it with a bunch of objects from the house. And what I'm going to do is I let it hunt, loop it around this a couple times, and see how much stuff it's going to throw. If you notice big gaps of time where it's not throwing anything at all, you don't have a Poltergeist. If you notice that it's throwing something every half of a second, and it's throwing it relatively farther, because a Poltergeist can throw objects pretty far, it has a harder throw force than most other ghosts in the game, then you know you have a Poltergeist. And it's the only ghost in the game that can throw numerous objects at the same exact time. Next up, we're going to look at the Mare. The Mare is a ghost that when you go ahead and turn on a light switch and the Mare is nearby, it can automatically turn the light switch off the moment you turn it on. What essentially it'll look like is this. So it'll do basically exactly that. You'll try to turn it on. If the ghost within 4 meters of the light switch itself, it has a chance to go ahead and turn it off immediately. This could be a very difficult ability to get to happen in real time if you have a bigger room and the ghost is nowhere near the light switch. Another thing to note about the Mare is that when the light is on in its favorite room, it'll have decreased activity. So if you notice that the ghost is trying to constantly get away from lights and is trying to go to darker rooms, you could have a Mare. If you notice that the activity in the room that you were in is decreasing with the lights on, it could be a Mare. And if you notice that the ghost is doing a lot of light-breaking events, meaning that when the ghost does an event, you'll see that light bulb go ahead and break, and you'll see sparks come out of it, that could be a Mare as well. The Mare likes to do that particular ghost event more than any other ghost in the game. Any ghost in the game could do that. The Mare will do it more frequently. I also want to go ahead and just point out here that if you ever see a light like this turned on, or even if the lamp over here gets turned on, for example, if this lamp was on and you didn't turn it on and nobody else in your lobby turned it on, you can't have a Mare. Mares cannot turn on light switches under any circumstance. Next up, let's talk about the Yokai. The Yokai is a ghost that cannot detect electronic presences or usage during a hunt from over 2.5 meters away. The most common question I get about this is how big is 2.5 meters? I'm going to show you a cool hack to determine this. This crucifix right here is tier 1. When you hold down the placement button, it gives you a nice circle you can see in front there that goes ahead and tells you the protective radius. So this is a 3-meter protection radius. 2.5 is going to be a little less than this. So it's anything even less than this circle is going to be 2.5 meters. Let's go ahead and place this down. You can see that the end of the car is where the 3-meter radius ends. So if, for example, the ghost was right here in this room and I was at the back of the car, all the way back here, and I had my flashlight on or I was talking with my in-game radio or my microphone, the ghost would have no idea where I was. And that is very unique because every other ghost would know immediately where you are. So if it starts wandering still after using electronics during a hunt and it still doesn't know, you can go ahead and say that you have a Yokai. Next up, we're going to talk about the Myling. The Myling is a ghost that has very quiet footsteps during a hunt, but it's also the most responsive ghost on the parabolic. So if you're using the parabolic and you notice that you're getting a ton of responses and the ghost is very chatty on it, that could be a Myling. But during a hunt, the way to go ahead and test for it is to go ahead and use your flashlight, drop it on the ground. The Myling's footsteps will only be heard when you first start getting electronic disturbance during a hunt. So if you notice that you can't hear the ghost's footsteps until your flashlight on the ground starts blinking, you have a Myling. But if you hear the footsteps well before the flashlight starts blinking, that is not a Myling, that's a regular ghost. Let's go ahead and see this in real time here. Let's start a hunt. Hunting now. I can hear the footsteps. The flashlight is not blinking. Hear them perfectly fine. This is not a Myling. Look at that, it's calling at us. Next up, let's talk about the Yurei. The Yurei is a ghost that loves slamming doors, has a lot of anger, and it takes it out on those doors. There's only one ghost in the entire game that can slam the front door when it's not hunting or eventing, and that would be the Yurei. So what would be happening here is you would see the front door, and it would just go ahead and close. I've noticed that if you ever are outside and you're in the van, the whole team is in the van, you come back and the door is randomly closed, and you're sure that nobody was inside the house, you have a Yurei. Because there's no way the ghost would try to hunt or event when nobody's in the house. That would mean the Yurei came to the front door and did a door slam. You can also see this on any other regular door in the game. I've noticed that it doesn't happen really on closet doors. It doesn't really happen on 10 flaps in the camps. And it doesn't really happen on bathroom stall doors either. To my knowledge, I haven't seen it. So, you know, basically what's going to look like is it's going to look like a normally open door like that. You may even hear 2 interaction sounds, like 2 clickings, and it's just going to go ahead and close like that. The best way to test for Yurei is to go ahead and open as many doors around the ghost location as possible. Next up, let's talk about Phantom and Oni, the 2 ghosts that have the most unique blinking patterns. And blinking is when the ghost disappears and reappears during a hunt. The Phantom is going to be a ghost that disappears for nearly 2 seconds every time it blinks out of existence during a hunt. It's going to be very difficult to see. You may not know where it went, and then suddenly it'll reappear back. So make sure you keep your distance because you don't really realize how close it's getting to you when it's blinking for that long. The Phantom does also have a roaming ability, and it has that ability to go ahead and just kind of roam towards random players throughout the round and go ahead and get pretty far away from its ghost room. The Oni, on the other hand, is a very visible ghost. It is more visible than any other ghost in the game, meaning that you could have a long period of time where the ghost just doesn't disappear at all. And then when it does, it reappears very, very quickly. So if you ever notice that the ghost doesn't blink for about 1.5 seconds and it's just very solid and it's not actually leaving to go into another form of invisibility and then coming back, you may actually have an Oni. The Oni also is incapable of doing the breath event. That is when you see that big white mist ball coming through the air, hitting a target and then making the hissing sound. It is one of the only non-physical manifested forms of an event in the game. If you notice it, automatically rule out Oni. Oni cannot do that. Otherwise, the Oni is a very active ghost, and it is very eventy. Let's look at this hunt right here. This ghost has got normal blinking patterns. It's not super visible. It's not super invisible. So this would not be Oni or Phantom in this certain scenario. Next up, let's talk about the Shade. The Shade is a ghost that when you're inside of its favorite room, which I am right now, is a very inactive ghost. The Shades don't like to hunt or do a lot of interactions while a player is nearby. So they typically like to wait for them to leave, or they leave the room themselves before they get active again. If you ever notice that the Shade is hunting in the same room as you, like this ghost is right now, then you can go ahead and eliminate the Shade possibility. One of the things that I will say is that if the ghost happens to roam a little bit outside the room, and then it starts blowing out candles and throwing things and eventing, that's not uncommon. You have to really be aware of which room the Shade is in. If it's no longer in your room anymore and it starts increasing activity, that is totally normal. The best way to go ahead and test for Shade is to go inside there with maybe a candle, maybe a crucifix, see if it burns the crucifix on top of you, see if it starts blowing out candles while you're in the room. Make sure that it is 100% in that room with you and not in the next room over, because then the test would be for nothing. Next up, let's talk about my least favorite ghost in Phasmophobia, the Goryo. On no evidence runs, the Goryo is a ghost that just cannot change rooms under any circumstance. If you notice that it's hunting the same room over and over again and it's not showing any other ghost abilities whatsoever, you may in fact have a Goryo. The other thing that's notable about the Goryo is that it has Goryo dots that can only be seen on video camera. Sadly, since you're doing no evidence, you cannot get Goryo dots, so it's a ghost that just doesn't have enough abilities to be determinable. I always leave my last ghost here. If I'm doing all the other ghost tests and I still don't know what it is, but it's not changed rooms, I go with Goryo. Next up, let's talk about the Obake. The Obake is a ghost that'll have a random shapeshift mid-hunt. So if you're noticing that this ghost is going ahead and is the same ghost model every time it blinks, if it suddenly blinks and it's a different ghost model for just that particular blink, you definitely have an Obake. According to official sources, the Obake will guarantee shapeshift during a hunt on its 12th blink. So if you're observing the hunt the entire time, on that 12th blink, it'll do a shapeshift. Down to our last 2 ghosts here, we're going to talk about the Onryo next. The Onryo is a ghost that cannot hunt within 4 meters of any flame source. So if you have a ghost room that is a small room like this that's only about 4 meters, you could probably get away with doing it with 1 candle. What's going to happen here is that the ghost cannot hunt in this room with the candle. The ghost may even try to leave this room and go to a different room where a candle is not. But if it tries to hunt, instead of hunting, it'll go ahead and prioritize doing a candle blowout before it bites a crucifix. Another thing to note is that if an Onryo blows out 3 flame sources, whether it's if I light this candle 3 times, or if I have 3 other candles as well, and they're all lit, like this, if it blows out all 3 of these candles, it's gonna go ahead and hunt within 6 seconds. So it has to start hunting no matter what your sanity is in 6 seconds. So let me go ahead and put this in perspective. If it blows out this candle, and this candle, and I don't relight any of them, it'll hunt in 6 seconds. If it only blows out this candle, and then it hunts, it will not have counted because it's still within 4-meter radius of these 2 candles over here. Also, if it blows out all of these candles, and then suddenly I relight one of them, it will not be able to hunt because it will still have a flame source in the area stopping it from hunting. So it'll not hunt within 6 seconds because there's still a flame there. So you really want to let it blow out 3, and then don't relight any of them, and don't give it a flame source to go ahead and restart the process. Now, this is a very difficult thing to do. One, because, let's be honest, you're not going to have a small room like this to test for an Onryo every single round. This is just a hypothetical situation. If you have the ghost room is out here in the living room instead, it's going to be much harder to go ahead and cover every 4-meter radius with a candle. And in fact, you may have one of them open where the ghost could go ahead and spawn in a little spot where it's not protected by a candle. That is unfortunately one of the downfalls of the Onryo itself. Also, if the Onryo tries to move rooms while you're doing the test itself, then also you're going to have to try to move the candles to a different room entirely to go ahead and test for it over there. The Onryo is a very complex ghost, and it's very difficult to pinpoint down. It's important to ensure you're in the correct room when testing for it. Last but not least, we have the Banshee. I saved it for last for a purpose, and that is because when you test for a Banshee, it does have a bit of a setup to go ahead and actually test for it. Let's go ahead and talk about the Banshee's roaming ability. The Banshee, at the beginning of the round, will choose its favorite target. It'll roam towards them and only hunt them during the round. If the target is outside of the van, it'll choose a different target to go ahead and hunt that particular time. If the target it chooses dies, it'll go ahead and choose a different target as well. So if you're doing Banshee testing on multiplayer, it's so simple because you're going to notice that it's only going to target that one person, and it's going to leave everybody else inside the house alone and allow you to even go ahead and walk into the ghost, and it still won't kill you. But if you play like solo like I do, then you have to go ahead and try to create more unique scenarios to figure out the Banshee. Let's go ahead and say the Banshee room is still that bathroom over there. What I would do here is I would know that there's not a whole lot of ghosts available that would be able to roam from that bathroom to all the way over here in the kitchen where I will be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up some motion sensors. I'm going to set up one there. I'm going to set up one here. And I want to know, is the ghost tripping off that motion sensor and then that motion sensor to come roam to me all the way over here where I am? Because if it does, it's doing some sort of a roaming ability, whether it's a phantom roam or a Banshee roam, that's for you to determine. But there's one important thing to note. If the Banshee is on a different floor than you, it'll likely not go ahead and roam to your location. So for example, a lot of documentation says that if the Banshee is down in the basement here, it'll be able to roam upstairs towards me and still be able to go ahead and find the target. Now, I have found this to be very, very misleading. I have not had a lot of Banshees do this for me, and I know it's a thing for sure on Point Hope, and it does work if the Banshee is one floor below or one floor above you on Point Hope. But if you're any further than that, it's not going to go ahead and do the Banshee roaming. So the best way to ensure the Banshee roaming is correct is to go ahead and be on the same exact floor as the ghost and don't be on a different floor to ensure that it works 100% of the time. Another way to go ahead and test for Banshee is with your parabolic microphone. Go ahead and point it in the direction of the ghost room and see if it's going to go give you a Banshee wail. It has a 33% chance to happen, so it doesn't always happen, but it's a very loud, high-pitched shrieking sound, and it's very easy to go ahead and determine. You're going to know if you have it for sure. Some people have never heard it before. I've had opportunity to hear it several different times. It's a very cool ability indeed, and it's the best way to ensure that you do have a Banshee. Now that we've gone through all 24 different ghost types and what they do and how to identify them in zero evidence rounds, let's go ahead and put this to the test and test your application skills by doing my 10.62 times no evidence, no sanity, no hiding, and no grace period multiplier. Let's do it. First thing I like to do is take my flashlight, take an incense, take a igniter so I can light my incense, and take a salted test for a Wraith early on. I like to go ahead and head back to the van at this point and grab a couple more things, look at my optional objectives, see if there's anything specific I need for it, and also grab a couple crucifixes, because crucifixes are going to be one of your biggest ways to protect yourself with that 0 grace period. What I do with the crucifix is I throw them in the front door. The reason for that is if you have 0 sanity, 0 grace period, and the hallway there is my ghost room, it's going to spawn on top of me and kill me immediately. So those crucifixes may actually save my round. Here we go. We're going in 3, 2, 1. Let's go. First things first, I always recommend to get to some sort of looping spot. That way you can observe for several different ghost abilities at the same time. What are we looking for first in this hunt? We're looking for ghost speeds and different unique abilities. So this ghost right here, super fast. Super fast. And it didn't slow down when it got near me. Now it is suddenly very slow. Almost too slow. Interesting indeed. Now, what ghost did we go over that is very slow when it doesn't know where you are, but it's very fast when it does? The answer would be a Revenant. The other opportunity could have been a Raiju, but we had no electronic equipment in that area, and when the Raiju slows down, it doesn't slow down that much. So that one is also not going to be a possibility. When it was coming at me that fast, I was almost thinking it was going to be a Deogen, so I waited until the last second to go ahead and repel it, because I wanted to see if it was going to slow down, and sadly it did not. Now, before you lock up and go, I always recommend to go ahead and keep this in mind. It is a mimic until proven otherwise. I recommend giving it 30 seconds to 2 minutes and going back in to see if it does the same exact ghost ability again. Do you have to do this? No. But it's something to go ahead and ensure that you don't get mimicked. Also, you can take your video camera, go inside if you know where the ghost room is, and see if you have ghost orbs. That is another possibility as well. Let's go ahead and take our money and run, lock in Revenant, and get out of here. And a Revenant it was.
Welcome back.
Got some stuff unlocked there. $3,837 and XP. I know this is a longer tutorial because we went over all 24 different ghost types and talked a lot about different things when it comes to no evidence rounds and custom difficulty, but I hope you found this to be beneficial. If you did, please let me know down in the comments. If you'd like to see some other tutorials and some different approaches to this, also let me know down in the comments. Very open to feedback. Thank you for watching, and until next time, my friends, stay crispy.